Today is Taco Tuesday, which is the Alliance for Creative Outreach Tuesday Creator Chat, where we're going to be chatting about stuff. Today stuff is going to be about discovering your audience, as in when you stream or when you talk or when you write or when you draw or when you sing, who are you doing that to? And being able to discover that will expand your ability to reach and grow. Okay, so we're gonna start here, and we're gonna start with this quick diagram. So just so you get to understand what's going on, the content that I'm going to be delivering to you is actually based upon, and the one that I'm doing in the class, the actual taco training, which we are now 2 weeks into. It's actually based on the John Maxwell leadership course, the Equip course. And hi, Forge Trinity, good to see you. And so what it is a training course for people who are in leadership, in church leadership, et cetera, et cetera. But every time you see leadership, you can change it to influencer or content creator or whatever. And I tell you what, it translates really, really well. This diagram here is what they call the global leadership crisis, which essentially they talk about how in the world right now, there's a lot of converts, as in like in China, in India, in the third world, and you got places all over the world that are just busting with evangelism and new Christians, lots of converts. Some churches are being planted. Sometimes it's in places that are illegal, and sometimes there's places that, they can't keep up. And then even lower than that, like you see the bottom line, and that's the leaders. The amount of leaders being trained for the amount of converts being made, or the amount of people just finding Jesus, the amount of leaders or disciple makers, teachers, people that are helping the people to understand what it means to be a Christian, how to grow in Christ. There's not nearly enough to keep up with them. I would argue that in the same way, there is a global content creation crisis, in that there are tons, that top line, that converse line, we'll take that and we'll say tons of people watching content creation, just a ton watching content creation all over the place, whether it be through, whether it be gaming or whether it be Twitch and streaming, YouTube, like cable companies are closing. People around the world are literally not even signing up for telephones anymore. Like, it's just, everything's the internet. And so there's a bajillion people that are doing that. The amount of churches that are actually involved in content creation, in streaming, in online ministry is nowhere close to grabbing it. Or the ministries specifically that are designed in order to serve, I got a landline 2001. Yeah, right. You got rid of it. Yeah, exactly. Right. The amount of ministries that are actually serving these people that are online or trying to help these people that are online, whether they be Christian or otherwise, low. And the amount of actual, trained, seminary graduate, experienced, mature Christians that have a grasp of content creation, streaming, technology, gaming, nerd stuff, whatever it is, the amount of people that can actually speak to those people watching the streams and watching the content in such a way that they can actually help them to grow because they're actual mature Christians is super low. Can you think of how many people that you watch on a daily basis or that you see over the week that are actually trained missionaries, trained evangelisms, trained teachers that have solid theology, have been through counseling training, who know how to communicate well, who have actual experience in the church and experience in life, or have done things that have trained them to serve in such a way that they can take somebody who's a new believer or yet a believer, or someone who is going through a crisis and actually help them in a biblically sound way. That's a real low amount of people. Which leads us to the sort of the devotional thought, leads us to the Devo, which is talking about the period of the Judges, okay? So the verse, Judges 21-25. It's actually said a few times in different ways throughout the book of Judges, which is, and there was no king in Israel in those days, and every man did what was right in his own eyes. In other words, during that, there was absolute chaos during the time of Judges. Every time that, as soon as Caleb died, as soon as Joshua died, everyone forgot Moses existed. Nobody knew where Egypt even was anymore. They all went bonkers. And then a prophet would rise up, or a judge would rise up, and he would, kind of clean everything up, and they'd come back to God. And then as soon as he died, everyone forgot all over again. And that just repeated over and over and over and over and over. The period we're living in right now with content creation is very similar to that, in that when it comes to established denominations, established churches, established Christians, established, understanding of how to serve the online community, there isn't one. It's absolute just chaos out there. People are just throwing content at the wall, throwing, missions at the wall. If you're a content creator, you felt this, because you'll go to your church, you'll go to your denomination, you'll go to your friends, you'll go to your other Christians, you'll be like, hey, I feel called to serve in the online community. And they're like, we have no idea what that is. Cannot help. Right? And Euclid says, even though some of the trained ones aren't that great. Yeah. The whole concept of digital ministry, says Pops Racer, is so new. It's exciting to see where it'll go and how God will use it. So when I first started, I went to my denomination. I was a Baptist in the Canadian Baptists of Ontario and Quebec. Not a huge denomination, but fairly big. And I went to them and I said, you guys have been talking about getting into the digital sphere, doing online missions for about 5 years now. You keep talking about it, how you're going to be helping the youth and whatnot, but you haven't pulled the trigger. So here's me, and I'm doing it. I've trained in it. I've looked into it. I've started it, and I've been able to get some momentum, and I've worked hard. Plus, I'm a pastor. I've been one of your pastors for the last half a decade, or more than half a decade, and I have been called by God to do this, and I can tell you who's affirmed my call. And they went, I don't know what to do with you. Our denomination doesn't have the constitution to be able to pull it off. Our missional whatever designs, our organization, we don't know what to do with you. We don't have a way to actually plug you in. And so sorry, we think you're great. But we don't know what to do with you. And I think that's adding to the chaos. There are very few people that are connected to mature believers, mature denominations, mature organizations that are actually serving in this arena. Does anybody know if there are colleges, universities, seminaries that have a digital missionary accredited program? I've never heard of one, but then I'm not super in the know. It would be neat if there was one. I would imagine there is a ton of crossover, right? I would argue that being a missionary and being a digital missionary, the crossover is huge, right? You have to learn the language, you have to know the culture, you have to be there and immersed in it for a while. God has to be the one who calls you to it. It's a lot of work. It takes an extreme amount of time. It's going to take a lot of money up front. You need a support system. You have to build your own leadership team while you're there. A lot of it's the same. It's just happening in the digital sphere. So I would imagine a lot of the transfer. The difference is the technology, the mode of communication, how varied the actual culture actually is online. Things like that. It's similar but different. Asgard says, I had a small but growing online ministry, and then my father-in-law, a man I respected a lot, said, doing ministry online is just you pretending to do something important instead of getting out there and doing real ministry. Yes. Yes. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That established Christian believers, those who are supposed to be mature and helping, do not grasp what's going on online, don't grasp digital ministry and aren't involved. Therefore, and this is where we're going to get into it, online missions of any kind is still a very new concept in my country. Yeah, Pineapple was having a hard time, even in her own church with people she cared about and cared about her, explaining what she was doing online. So this is how we've always done it mentality, holding back ministry today. And it has always. I've been in ministry for 25 years, and we've never done it that way before, or we've already tried that once a million years ago, and this is the same thing. It kills a lot of ministries. So during this, here are 6 reasons why this period was leadership intensive. So why was it so hard to be a leader then? Or why was it so hard to be a judge? And now, why is it so hard to be a content creator, a Christian content creator? Number 1, chaos reigned because there was no precedent for authority or accountability. That's absolutely true right now. Chaos is reigning because there's no organization of authority and accountability. And I'll tell you what, my experience with Christian content creators right now is if you try to introduce authority, introduce accountability to it, they immediately rankle, they pull back. Because many have been hurt by the church, many have been pushed away, many have been told exactly what Asgard was said, right? Which is the idea that there it's not a real ministry. You're just pretending. You just want to play video games and call it ministry. And therefore, the people that are supposed to be in authority, the elders, the deacons, the teachers, have pushed them away. The ones who are supposed to hold them accountable, their fellow Christians and whatnot, don't understand what they're doing. So chaos is reigning. That's one of the reasons that we started the Taco Network. One of the reasons I was so excited to become a part of this is because I get it. I understand streaming and content creation, but I'm also a pastor, an elder called by God, and understand training, accountability, and discipleship. I want to bring that to people who need it, especially online, because I validate what you're doing. I think it's a critically important mission and ministry. But right now, it's chaos out there. I've had conversations with other mission leaders, and when I've said, anything about authority and accountability, they go, no, we don't do that here. We do peer-to-peer. All we do is we offer help, because anything other than offering help makes people freak out, right? You can't have accountability because it's their channel, it's their decision, it's their call, it's their ministry, it's their everything. And as soon as you go, well, we want to come in there and hold each other accountable and maybe bring in some biblical authority or anything to do with some kind of structure, institutionalization, many of them freak out. That's what makes Taco different, by the way. And Donnie, we need a whole lot of turnover. So why don't we just start it? We'll just start our own seminary, and we will, and training thing that we can help people with Christian content creation. We'll do it. We'll get there by God's grace. Number 2, since the Jews first occupied Canaan, aggressive enemies surrounded them. In other words, where they were nonstop attacked, and they were constantly surrounded by enemies. In the same way, Christian content creators are consistently surrounded by enemies, surrounded by content creation that is downright evil, by people who want to shut down Christians online. Anything online to do with Christians is immediately antithetical, is attacking. They consider us to be all stupid and racist and sexist and all sorts of horrible things. And so even going online is hard. And I would say that going online as a female Christian has got to be 10 times harder, because it's already harder as a female, and now you jump on there as a Christian content creator, it's going to be 10 times harder. We're surrounded by enemies. There are no government funds for national defense or safety. It was hard for the judges because they couldn't just go to the bank, go to the treasury and help. They were just one person. In the same way, so many content creators don't have the funds, the support, and the ability to do the things that they feel God has called them to do, because there is no treasurer, there is no budget, there is no church that's, here's some stuff, and here's a computer, and here's some ways to do this, and here's some training, here's some books to read. They just don't do it. And so therefore we have not great content or really good, powerful content creators that don't have very good systems, and we end up, because of the lack of funds and resources, we end up with poorer product. And you probably felt this yourself, is that you have this mission, you have this desire, this burning passion within you to get out there and do things, and then you realize that it is really hard and really expensive, and your computer doesn't even run Minecraft. So how are you supposed to do this thing, right? What is this thing called, a budget? Yeah. Keep going. Our other nations influenced Israel with their idols and superstitions. So one of the problems of being a judge is that every time the last judge dies, someone would step up and they would look around and they'd be like, hey, the judge died. Let's pretend that the law of Moses doesn't exist and just completely worship every pagan altar in the history of the world. And they'd freak out. And so a judge would come up and he'd see that the nation of Israel were just chock full of idols and superstition. In the same way, Christian content creators are very influenced by non-Christian, non-believing content creators. That's who they're taking their cues from. That's where they're getting their training from. That's where they're getting their missional identity from. That's how they're learning how to stream and learning how to create content and learning how to make music and stuff, is from secular people, is from non-religious, non-missional, non-Christian people. And that's who's influencing them the most. And so when they come to their channel and they want the training and they want to learn how to do it, they go turn on somebody whose mindset is, financially driven, is popularity driven, has all kinds of advice, but it's non-Christian, right? Non-Christian. And some of it's okay, right? As far as things to know, but they're influenced by non-believers who are definitely not prioritizing the way a Christian would. Blocker says it's totally different to approach managing content creation than typical ministry, but similarities feel forgotten. You're right. The process looks different, Blocker, but so much of it is similar. And I'll tell you, because I was part of small town churches and old churches. My last church was like 200 years old. And what I'm doing here is not different than what I was doing in church. The teaching that I'm doing, the content that I'm producing, the having fun together, putting on events that we can get together and do fun things with, and that's the gaming, the streaming, the Weird Wednesday, and then trying to teach and use that as a bridge to be able to communicate the gospel and to train up, disciple the people who are saved. I'm doing all the same stuff. It's just on a different environment, right? Yeah, and Coffee Adventure makes a good point, is that, Christian movies, they're not great for a bunch of reasons, and I don't want to get too much into that, but simply to say that I think if we were able to do this as Christians, it would be and do it well and understand the medium, I think we could be great. Good content and good news seems to be a gap. No joke. Okay. Heroes like Moses and Joshua were dead, and there was no expectation of order. So how does this translate to content creation? The Omega Code is stopped here. Yeah, come on now. And Left Behind. Come on, man. We got some gold. Hey, Jikoku. So Moses and Joshua, who were the heroes of the day, the big names, were dead, and there was no expectation of order. So I would say this translates very much to that when it comes to the big daddies of content creation, of the super established, good reputation, long-term book writing, class teaching, YouTube video, making heroes of content creation, they don't exist yet. There are some out there that are doing an okay job, and they do an okay job with the streaming, or they do a good job with the content creation or whatever. But when it comes to like the John MacArthur of streaming, or the R.C. Sproul, or the John Piper, or the Rick Warren, or the whatever of content creation, we don't have one. They don't exist. And therefore, being able to look at a model and go, this is who I want to be like. How do you do that if you don't have that hero out there, right? Because I know that a lot of preachers will stand up and be like, I want to be like John MacArthur. I want to be like, whoever, pick an author, Charles Spurgeon, how far do you want to go? Augustine, Apostle Paul. That's who I want to be like. How do you do that with content creation when there's no big name to kind of pattern after? Number 6, momentum and morale were low, so growth was hard, not easy. In the world online, well, yeah, but would you call him the John MacArthur of streaming? Someone who has built an established ministry and is widely respected all around the world, and not only does great at their craft, but also is someone who people model themselves out after? Yeah, I don't know Tim well. But I would say that he's more of a streamer than he is a Christian content creator. But that's not bad. It's not a criticism. It's just simply to say that when it comes to the people doing online missions really, really well, I don't know how many we have. Yeah, and Blocker J's right. Exactly. Okay, so momentum and morale were low, so growth is not easy. So I would say the online arena right now is gross, difficult. It's hard to engage. The algorithms don't like Christians, and a lot of because of where the church is at right now, especially in North America, and Europe for that matter, the idea of launching new missions and launching new ministries and trying new experimental stuff and getting into like a new arena of ministry is hard because churches are closing and pastors are quitting and denominations are exploding as far as like the imploding, they're dying. There are, existing ministries are being discovered as having corrupt leaders. Like there's just morale and momentum are incredibly low in the arena of missions as it is, or in church life. And so coming in, if you walk in, and I've done this dozens of times, probably, well, dozen times, I've walked and talked to a missionary who looked at me, or to a church that looked at me and said, I affirm what you're doing. We have no way to do anything about that because our church just can't do it. We don't have the money. We can't possibly start a new ministry. We can't support a new ministry. We can barely support our old ministries. We're in crisis. We're thinking too much about uniting with other churches or building another thing, or we're going to shut down. And therefore, the idea of launching this new ministry, which requires, how much capital would you say you need to even start streaming? It's a lot, probably a few $1,000 just to get going. So therefore, it's really hard to start in this thing. Okay, so therefore, how do we, I'll read it here. It says this: 14 judges led Israel during this period. Each leader started his or her leadership role from scratch. We know about a whole list of them. Certainly we know more about some judges than others. However, from the text, we can summarize how effective leaders led during Israel's most difficult season. So, the question is, what common denominators, thanks Takuya, what common denominators are out there that we can mimic in the life of the judges to be able to say, this is how we can be effective in influencing a nation? Because that's what they did. They were just a person. They didn't have any kind of they weren't special. They weren't a king. They didn't anything. They just kind of showed up, and then all of a sudden the nation was changed. What can we learn from them so we can do the same? Yeah, and that's equipment for a beginner level. Exactly. There we go. It's supposed to be on paper, like old school actual paper, which makes it confusing when you're trying to make a presentation. If you could get up and running at minimum for a couple grand. Yeah, well, it still takes a couple grand. Go to your church, Coffee and Adventure, and ask the question, how much did it cost to start the Sunday school? How much did it cost to start small groups? How much did it cost to start any given ministry within the church? Their answer is going to be, we bought a book. Cost $34.99 and someone read it. Right? Yeah, but my point is it's on two sides. It's hard to deal with. Cut me some slack, man. I'm doing my best here. Christian Ukulele says, Blocker, I'm absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to chatting with you too. A lot of the Christian content on YouTube is the same. Existing pastors and writers and artists doing the same things they've been doing, not tailored for digital. Yeah, it's just copy-pasted. I totally agree. They're still thinking radio, which in a lot of places in the world, that still works. But not everywhere. What was I saying? Grab life by the jawbone. Grab the donkey by the jawbone. Okay. Contrary to what many think. Okay, here we're at. Okay. So the basics of effective leaders. So I'm going to retitle this, and I'm going to call it How to Discover Your Audience. How to know who you can influence. How you can understand when it comes to your stream, your music, your story, your whatever you're doing when you step into your content creation. And I'm a streamer, so that's sort of where my default brain goes to. How do you discover who you're doing it to so you can influence them? This is how to do it. The basics of effective leaders, or the basics of effective influencers. The way to discover your audience is, 1, They perceived a need. Contrary to what many think about influence today or content creation today, during this time, leadership always began with a need. In other words, when you start creating content, when you start getting on there, when you just want to do something, the reason that you need to do it is because you see something that needs to be, a hole that needs to be filled. You see a need that needs to be spoken. You see a group that needs to be represented. You see something that pulls you towards wanting to create content. And just the way the judges looked out and they went, wow, this place is a mess. I'm going to stand up. I see that there's a need, whether it be Othniel, right? He looks out and he sees enemies everywhere. So he steps forward and he raises up an army. Or Ehud, he saw the Moabites coming in and dominating his people, and he led an army to victory. Shamgar, you see the Philistines have been oppressing Israel for years. So he went out and he fought. Like the idea is they see a need and they fill it. In Judges, it didn't start when someone wanted to fill an empty position. Like there was no like king that came next. It was just someone saw a need and they stepped up. So when leadership is pure, and I would say it this way: when content creation is pure, when influence is pure, when Christian content creation designed for a good purpose is pure, it always starts with a need. Your creation, whatever you're doing, if you just go live, if you just draw and stick it out there, if you have absolutely no reason to do it, and then you wonder, why am I not growing? Why am I not influencing? Why am I not being able to spread the gospel? Why am I not whatever? It's very possible that it's because when you make your content, when you go live, when you chat with whoever you're supposed to be chatting with, or you want to be on there, you have no reason to be there. You haven't seen a need. But the ones who are successful, the ones who are able to influence many, the ones who are able to change lives, they see a need. For me, I see a need for Christian content creators who have been forgotten or lost by their church or not being discipled by the people out there that are supposed to disciple them, that want to change the world for Jesus, to spread the gospel, to show love, to open their hearts to many, but can't. They need discipleship, they need help, they need pastoring, they need care, they need equipping, they need to be discipled in a specific way that meets their needs as a content creator. I see that need. I also see that there are people out there in the world that are locked in their homes, that don't leave the house, that are too sick, too mentally ill, too socially, like social anxiety or whatever, and therefore they don't go out there. And so the church that's trying to reach them, the missionary trying to reach them, they'll never find them. They don't go to this, they don't go to the coffee shop. They won't go to your youth group. They won't go to your bake sale. They won't go to anything that you're doing because they're too afraid. They're in their home. That's where they live. So how do we get to those people that are in their home and won't come out? We go through their content. We go through YouTube. We go through Twitch. We go through what they're already looking at. If we become great streamers, great content creators, they'll come to us and invite us into their living room. They'll invite us into their bedroom so that we can talk to them. Okay? Those are the needs I see, that the audience need and the discipleship need. Therefore, I have a passion within me. Number two, seeing that need sparks a passion within the person. That's me. I'm passionate about this. I desire very much to see you discipled and to see your audience changed and affected for the gospel. That passion caused me to act. I act in response to the need. Therefore, I just jumped into streaming. Sorry, I don't think I did this one. I just started streaming. I went into content creation completely without a plan. I just saw it and I did it. And then we started Taco. It just kind of came out of nowhere, man. Blocker says, for me, I would say that the need for supporting streamers and ministries with training up digital native workers and providing tools and resources. Yeah, boom, baby. Exactly. Because they lack tools, they lack resources, and they lack training. Totally. Ukulele said, just watching your Sunday morning sermon recently with no interaction is not a church experience. Yeah, dude, totally. All right. Yeah, Ukulele, very wise there. Okay, so We acted in response to a need. That's where Taco came from. That's where my stream came from. That's where this network came from. This action moves others to cooperate. I created a stream. People started following my stream. They saw how excited I was to train them and love them and help them and talk to them. And they were like, this is something I didn't have, and I know now I want to be part of this. And then people that I said I want to disciple, they've said, yeah, bring it. So I've already done one whole class of disciple making and training of content creators. I'm currently doing another class helping to disciple and train content creators. And we're creating a network to do that because others have been moved to cooperate. So let me pause here and ask you the question. When you think of the needs around you, just like Blocker did, right? Which one is striking a chord in your heart? What kind of specialist are you called to become? What will you do before you die? What will your significant contribution be? So let me back off the big questions at the end there and just kind of ask the question, when you create content, when you think of content creation, or when you step onto your stream, or when you step into your art, or you step into writing a song, what needs around you do you see that is striking a chord with your heart? Before you even put pen to paper, before you even turn on the stream, let's back up. Do you see needs around you? Needs online, needs in the world, needs in your community, needs among the people that you care about? Say, autistic people, or disaster relief, or people who are musicians and aren't supported, people who have no mom or dad, people who are singles, people who are new into the country, immigrants. Like, who do you see that is like opening your heart, and you're like, I want to talk to and inspire and encourage and help those people. Those are my people. What need do you see? And yeah, it's hard. That's what I was saying before, right? There is a distinct lack of quote unquote good churches, and it's hard enough out there. It's a real chaos. The next thing, what was another commonality for the judges that we need in order to become effective content creators and influencers? They possessed a gift. Okay, in each of the cases of the judges, the leaders emerged, these influencers emerged because they had an obvious gift. They possessed some ability that fit the need of the moment perfectly. They were competent in a relevant area. Their gift solved a problem. In each case, the gift was from God, but it took different forms. Okay, let's talk about why we see content creators grow. Why are some great? I think it's because they have a special gift, whether it be they're great at talking, they're great at the game, they're great at singing, they're great at drawing, they are great at entertainment or humor, or they are exceedingly attractive, or they have a special skill set. They have something that is uniquely special, very different about them. And because of their gift, they're able to elevate their content higher than other people can. In the same way, these judges had a spiritual gift, or a natural talent, or an acquired skill, right? Samson had a spiritual gift, even though it was strength. It was connected to a spiritual Nazirite vow. Everybody has a spiritual gift in the New Testament. Natural talent, right? Deborah was an example of someone who just was good at strategy and wisdom. She just sat under that tree and people would come to her for wisdom. She just knew stuff. There were a lot of people there who had natural talents for strength, or for doing skills. We see all the way through Scripture, there are people who are just good at stuff, or an acquired skill. There are people who started with not skilled, and they worked at it. So Gideon's the coward who didn't know what to do with himself. Jephthah was a reject, and they went out and they trained and they tried hard and they became something through their work. So God has put something inside of each of us that is to be delivered to the people around us. In other words, everyone has something we all need. When we find it, we naturally influence others. So Ukulele says, when I started streaming, there were two things I was seeing. No Christian music to listen to on Twitch. Christians who said, I'm not good enough to lead a stream. There you go. Christian hot tub stream. Nailed it. Boom. Yeah, I think you're going to see a distinct drop in some of that stuff now that Amaranth has been... now that the story of Amaranth has come out and you see how abused and manipulated and stuff. I hope by God's grace that's a domino that pushes towards people looking into the lives of some of these people that are doing, online sex work content creation, and to discover that they're actually not super happy and not super empowered. It's actually a bad situation. I hope that happens, because there are probably a lot more stories like Amaranth's out there. Okay, so when influence is pure, when your content creation is pure from the area of gifting, you will find a gift inside of you. Okay? The person, so it starts with, right? I have a need. I see a need. I see a reason that I need to be giving creation. There's people that need my help. Or there's a group that needs representation. I'm going out there. And the next thing that happens is you discover a gift inside of you. Okay? You discover a gift inside of you. And that can be, again, you go up, right? It's either a spiritual gift, as in you have one of the many spiritual gifts that God gives out, whether it be teaching or administration, or it's with mercy, discernment. One of the you have something that you can use in your content creation, or it's a natural talent. Maybe you're good at music, or maybe you're good at drawing, or maybe you're good at singing, or maybe you're just very funny, or an acquired skill, as in you worked hard to be good at that game, or to be elite at that level, or you've worked really hard to be very physically strong, so you know a lot about working out. Whatever it is, you have a gift. You groom and develop that gift. In other words, you haven't just seen it inside of you, but you've worked hard to make that gift as good as possible. You eventually match that gift with a place of service. Okay, this is the big one. In content creation, when you are seeking to influence people, it's not good enough that you're good at the game or that you are good at drawing or music. It's that you've developed that, you're working on it, and that when you do that, when you do your drawing, your speaking, your reading, your whatever you do, podcasting, you actually have a place to do it, whether it be you've discovered that you are good at podcasting, or you are good at digital content creation through drawing, or you are good at music and therefore you can distribute music, or you're a streamer, or you're a YouTuber, or you're a book writer, or whatever it is. You discover a place to take that gift and make stuff with it. That gift that you have provides the platform for influence. So in other words, because you are worked hard to be a good artist, or a good musician, or a good game player, or very funny, or really a good teacher, whatever, that's given you a platform for influence. And because of that influence and the excellence you have in your gift, you eventually flourish because of it. Okay? How do you know what your area of gifting is? Okay? So I'll say this. Here's a good way. We naturally lead, or we naturally influence, we naturally create content in the area of our gift. In our gift area, we are most intuitive, productive, comfortable, satisfied, natural, influential. In other words, when you're doing the thing you're good at, you are intuitive, as in it comes naturally to you. You can bob and weave, and you can change things, and it's fairly easy to do. You don't find that you're always like feeling out of the loop. You're not totally sure what's happening. You're having to like study a lot and push a lot and figure things out, because it's fairly intuitive what you should be doing. You're also productive. You enjoy doing it. Therefore, you will do it. You'll continue to do it. You want to do it, and therefore you create more. However, if you're working outside of your gift, you're going to end up, it's going to be a lot of work, and you're not going to do a lot of it, right? You've probably experienced that before, where you're asked to do something that you're good at. It gets done, and it gets done well and quickly. Someone says, can you do this thing you're not good at? Suddenly it's hard, and you can't do very many of it. Third, you're comfortable. I think of content creation where, there's someone who's a streamer, but they don't want to be a streamer. I know so many people in the streaming community who don't want to stream. I know so many people in the content creation community who don't want to stream. And I've said to, they've said to me, I want to influence people online. I feel called to serve online. I have this gift and ability, and I feel like the only way I can do it is streaming, because that's the only thing I know how to do. But I hate it. I don't like streaming, and I don't like chat, and I'm not very good at it, and I'm really uncomfortable. But that's what I have to do, because that's what content creation is. And I go, nope. This is where my Stream Dream Team came in. Okay? I said to these people, listen, I think God did call me to stream at this point, and so I think I'm okay with it. I'm comfortable with being on stream. But if you're not, what are you good at? What do you love doing? And some are like, well, I love desktop publishing. I love doing art. I love working with music. I love doing these other things. I like building games. And I go, okay, well, why don't you do that, but you do it for me? You get to work in your gifting area, doing things that are effective, but you don't have to stream and you can do it on your own time. What if you did that? And it's like a light bulb went off for some of them where they're like, holy, you mean I can do that? I can just use the things that God has created me to do, and I can help you, and then you can go out there and grow and help and change people, and I can be part of that. And I'm like, yeah, you can be a huge part of that because I can't do it without you. So now they feel comfortable, productive, intuitive, satisfied, natural, influential, because they're working within their gift and not working in an uncomfortable place. Does that make sense to you guys? I see a lot of chat going by, and I'm pretty sure Ukulele and Pineapple and Jillykins are hanging out, but and covering it. But does that make sense to you guys? So my question to you is this: what is your primary gift? Right? When you think of the natural, the spiritual, or the developed gift that you have, what's yours? For me, I am a teacher. I'm a teacher, preacher, knowledge guy who likes to take thinks and give them to you so that you can think them too. That's what I do. That's my main area of gifting. And so therefore, because I'm a communicator and because I'm a teacher, that's what I do online. And I think that's what makes my stream whatever it is. So for you, what's yours? Put them in the chat. What do you think your primary gift is, that where you're the most intuitive, productive, comfortable, satisfied, it comes naturally, and when you do it, things work. What are your things? Show me. Yeah, most content creators would love to have at least one team member to help out. You're absolutely, totally right on that. How many of you streamers are just in love with your mods? You think they're the greatest people of all time simply because they're willing to show up, be consistent, and help. Like, that's so special. Asgard says, the thing that I've enjoyed the most online have been writing biblical articles. I haven't thought of trying to combine that with my streaming. Think about it, dude. Why not? Or maybe you're not supposed... Don't take me the wrong way, Asgard, okay? Maybe you're one of those people who are like, you know what? I don't like streaming. I like writing. Is there a way that we can, unite you together with other people, say artists and streamers and podcasters and stuff, and that you can use that content to maximize it, but it's not just for you. You're maximizing it on a team of other content creators. Is that possible? Dragon says, well, I don't have the money to start or the internet to hold a stream. Well, yeah, I mean, maybe you're not supposed to stream. Maybe that's okay. Actually, I think Dragonheart knows his gifts. Yeah, he is for sure. He is for sure. He knows his stuff. XtianNinja Retro Rewind says, sorry I was being distracted by reading chat. Can you repeat the last 20 minutes again? Well, fortunately, there's this little thing called a VOD. And also, this is a class that I teach. I'm currently teaching a class, and I'll tell you why. I'll give you a little secret. I forgot to record the class. I'm taking all this and turning it into a book. Okay? So I've written 5 books? I've written some books. And what I'm doing now is going to be turned into a book. But I was doing it so that I could record the class, and then I could go back to what I was saying so I can write the book. I forgot to record the class. And so I'm like, what if I do it on Taco Tuesday again? So I can have it recorded. So you're not the only one who wants to have these things repeated. Me too. Not sure what my gift is, though. Well, Donnie, you got a ton, though. I think one of the problems with you, Donnie, is that you do have a lot. You have a lot of things to offer, and how many of them are, how many of those things are like? What's your primary? The thing that, yeah. So that could take a little bit of meditation. Okay, let's keep going. They parade a passion. Okay. These judges that we're talking about, they are people who they saw a need, they discovered their gift, developed their gift, worked within their gift and created an influence. And while they're doing that, they connected that gift and that their voice or whatever they were doing to their passion. We talk a lot about passion in this world. So I'll read it here. It says, when an outward need and an inward gift match, the leader often follows by being consumed with passion. The passion is compelling to others. The leader, influencer, content creator can't help but share it with those who want to get involved. In the book of Judges, several leaders experienced a kind of inward chemistry that sparked passion. Here are the ingredients for passion. So, how do you become passionate? Like, you guys, one of the things that I have going for me, and a lot of people tell me, is when I start talking about the Bible or start teaching or something like that, you can tell that I'm on fire and I'm excited and it's my passion because I'm working within my skill set and it's stuff I think is important. So for you, what are your burdens, your interests, your concerns? The word burdens, when it goes onto your shoulders, essentially this idea of things you're willing to work for, work towards, things that you're willing to put effort into, right? So you got somebody who's got a hobby for carpentry or mechanics or something like that. They're willing to get greasy, get cut up. They're willing to do stuff, take time, get tired doing those things because they're interested in it. Or they have a concern. They care about, people who are pregnant. They care about people who are mentally ill, people that are elderly, and they're willing to put themselves out there, carry a burden, feel weight, get tired because of their concern. So what burdens you? Passion also comes from conviction, your values, your principles, your beliefs. In other words, you get excited or you get angry or you get frustrated or you get, whatever, when your values, principle, and beliefs are challenged. You believe very strongly in that in pro-life, that abortion is wrong, and therefore you're out there and you're going crazy and you're going to marches and you're doing stuff online. Or you believe very strongly that the poor need to be fed, and so it moves you and you talk about the poor and you get out there and you feel like, why isn't everybody doing this? Don't you see the need? Or foreign missions, or education, or Bible study, or entertainment, or good music. Like, why is there so much crap music out there? I'm going to go out there and someone's got to do this. Your belief, your values cause a passion within you. Your gifts, we've talked about that already. These God-given abilities you have. When your burden, as in the thing you care about, connects to your conviction, as in the thing you think is really valuable and important, and it connects to your gift, right? Suddenly you have a passion. All of a sudden you're like, man, I'm a good speaker, so I'm going to talk about that subject because it burdens me so much. I'm a drawer. I'm a musician. I'm an artist. I'm a streamer. I'm a YouTuber. I'm a, whatever it is, a photographer. I'm a photographer. So I'm taking that gift and I'm going to use it because I care so deeply about this to communicate a message to other people to show my burden. That passion will pour into your work. Needs, your desperate circumstances. So we've talked about need before and the importance of knowing and seeing a need. But this is usually something you feel too, right? So for example, say you have PTSD, you have mental illness, you have depression, you've gone through abuse, you've been you've been through divorce, or you've had single parents or poverty or whatever your thing is. You felt it or are currently feeling it. And because of those feelings, because you know what it's like, it drives a passion to do something. You are like, nobody should feel what I felt. Nobody should go through what I go through. Nobody should have to spend their life figuring out things that I've figured out because I can help them get there. Therefore, I see the need, and the desperate circumstances compel you to have passion. And opportunities, that's the last thing, right? If you get connected, all this stuff get connected to an opportunity, suddenly you're like, wow, not only do I see it and feel it and want to do it and know it's important, but now I can actually do something. So you can step in, whether it be volunteer for somewhere or write the book or get on stream or start the podcast or whatever. The opportunity presents itself. That's where passion comes from. Let me keep reading here because this is important. I hope so, Jill. You write it down then. You write that down. Otherwise, you'll forget if you're like me. So passion makes up for a lack of resources. No doubt resources are nice to have, but many of the judges were not rich in money, people, or talent when they started. Neither are you, right? Neither's your ministry, neither's your stream, neither's your whatever you're doing. You don't have a lot, but your passion makes up for a lot of that. Gideon was scared. Samson lacked moral backbone. Jephthah was impetuous. Abimelech was overzealous. He had to be reprimanded. And the other guys were just plain old. That doesn't stop you if you have a passion. It's like for example, when I go down to Florida in a couple weeks here, I want to stream. I feel like I need to connect with you guys. I want to tell you what's happening down there. I want to give you guys reports because you're helping me get there, and you're the reason I'm going there, and you're on the team, and there are people meeting me down there because we're excited to get together. And so therefore, I don't want it to just be about me, and then I get stuff, and then I just come back. I want to tell you guys what's been happening, and so I want to stream in the evenings. And so I'm like, I need to make this happen. I don't have money for a laptop. I can't pack up my giant computer and bring it with me. All I've got is an old phone. And so I'm like, how can I make this work? And so I'm going to try when I get there to stream from my phone because my passion hopefully will make up for my lack of resources and people will attend the stream or be interested in it, even though it's not pretty. It's not full of alerts. But maybe they'll be interested in what I have to say. That's the hope, right? Yo, thank you for the... Actually, I have a meeting with my pastor in an hour discussing a podcast where we're expanding each week's message. I would appreciate prayers. Dude, for sure. God, if this is your will and you want this to expand, you want this podcast to go forward, may you give Rewind the right words to say and the resources to do it and the passion to keep it going and the audience to listen. May you be glorified. Amen. No. I haven't got there yet, Blocker. That's I'm so thankful for ukulele being so insanely helpful. None of this can happen. This channel would not exist if ukulele was not here. It would be so crappy if she wasn't the one keeping the backbone together. So no, I haven't checked that out. So I will, though. Okay, so my question to you is, do you have a passion? Passion generally begins with interest. What are your interests as you relate to the content creation and the people around you? What makes you cry? What makes you angry? What do you feel strongly about that you feel driven to act? Process this, and keep in mind, let me back all this up to say, this is all about your content creation, okay? This isn't just about life. I mean, like, when you sit down to stream, this is why. Right? It will focus your content. It will focus what you're doing. It will give you people to talk to. When someone comes in and they don't match what you're doing, you're not going to be desperate to keep them and change your whole thing because you've got someone saying follow. This is like, that's not who I'm for. I'm for this group of people. Your message will be clearer. Your purpose will be clearer. Your about page will be clearer. Your tweets and your TikTok and your shorts and everything will make more sense because now you know who you're talking to and you know your gift, and everything will be focused on your audience because you're willing to take your passion, understand the need, use your gift, and focus it on an audience. Okay? That's what this is about. That's what this is about. So, they persuaded people. True leaders eventually, or true influencers, eventually come to the point where they attract and empower others to their passion. Sometimes they just find others who share the same passion. One thing is sure, genuine influencers, genuine content creators who are effective, connect with people. They connect with others. This is what separates an entrepreneur and a leader. In this segment, this is what separates someone who goes live from someone who is a Christian content creator with a purpose. This is what separates someone who draws from a Christian content creator with a purpose. This is separates someone who sings with someone who's a genuine content creator with a purpose. They attract people. They have persuade people, and those people get on board. They're excited. They're interested in what's happening. They have followers. They have to, because the cause they're trying to help, the people they're trying to serve, the reason they exist, what God put them on earth to do is bigger than they are, so they need people to help, right? They need others to pull it off. And you guys know, if you're a Christian, then you know that, Gideon, he had to get an army, and God's like, too many. But he had to influence an army. Deborah influenced the entire nation through her ministry, but at the same time, Barak, who was the leader, the military leader, she influenced him so much that he literally are like, I'm taking you with me to battle. Samuel, the strongest of all judges, he was the number one guy. He was the most influential leader. He influenced influencers. He influenced Saul. He influenced David. He was an influencer of influencers. It didn't just stay with them. It went out and it trickled down throughout the whole nation. And so I guess to talk about this next part, which is one of my favorite things to talk about, it is to say, how do you, when you figure this out and you discover the people, there we go. You discover the people you're trying to persuade, or you discover these people that you're trying to connect to, and you do start to get followers, and you start to get people together, and your audience starts to build, and you have a mission. How do you actually translate that? How do you convert that from, now I have people that are listening, I have an audience of however big, to we're actually affecting the world in a positive way, the way I dreamed that we would, right? Many of you feel that God has called you, that he called you to content creation to do something. How do you move from, I built an audience because I did good content creation, to actually doing the thing that God has called you for? This is so critical. This is important stuff. I've been to 1,000 meetings, lived through 1 million ministries, and these are mistakes that I see constantly. What gets talked about gets done. What gets trained for gets done. What gets measured gets done. What gets budgeted gets done. What gets confronted gets done. What gets rewarded gets done. Let me go through those. And so in your channel, in your content creation, in your music, with your team, with your group, with your church, with your ministry, which whoever you're working with, your audience, whatever you talk about is the thing that's going to happen. Therefore, if you're like, I want to reach people for the gospel, and you spend all your time talking about Fortnite, you're going to wonder why you didn't reach anybody for the gospel. Or if you want to reach people who play Fortnite, or people who are doing whatever game, and you get distracted and do other things, and you're doing your Bible study, and then you do like another thing, and then you play a different game and whatever, and like, I'm not reaching the people I want to reach, it's because you're not focused. What gets talked about gets done. So if you're in a church or your ministry or whatever, if you're constantly badgering everybody about the fact that we need to help the poor, 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 that's what's going to get done. If you're not talking about it, it won't get done. Second thing, what gets trained for gets done. So for you as a content creator, what you train others to do, or what you train yourself to do, is the thing that'll get done. So if you have a need, I'm trying to grab one. Let's say, helping the poor. That's what you've seen the need. You want your channel to go on there, and you want to raise money for people who need whatever. You see it, you talk about it. Are you doing training for how to build a donation? How to accept donations? Are you training on how to connect with other organizations? Are you looking into how to be a better speaker? How to come share your mission better? Like, are you training yourself for whatever your mission is, or are you just assuming it's going to be fine because you already know everything? In the same way, in churches or in ministries or in everywhere else, if you don't give people training, give people the book, the class, the YouTube, whatever it is you're asking them to do can't be done because they don't know what to do. Third, what gets measured gets done. If you want to be effective in content creation, you have to look at your numbers. You have to look at your metrics. You have to know who you're reaching, when your perfect time of streaming is, or your perfect time of releasing is. You have to look at who's following you on Twitter, who's looking at your TikToks, what you need to do. You have to look at the numbers, because if you don't care about the numbers, whatever it is won't get done, because you won't change, you won't adapt, you won't learn, you won't be able to focus, because you're not paying attention to the measurements. If you're afraid of numbers, you're not going to be as effective as you could be. Because if you want to get stuff done, It's going to require numbers. You're going to have to look into how many people are watching, how many people are looking, how many people am I serving, how much money did we raise, where did that money go, where am I, where's my influence, among who, what's my main demographic. You have to look at this stuff because otherwise you're going to be ineffective. Third, what gets budgeted gets done. This is one that, and from a streamer perspective, this is the one that I see this mistake a lot. And that is, when you finally make some money off of your content, what do you do with it? Does it immediately go to getting the pizza? Like I finally you finally get on Twitch, you finally get to $100 and they finally send you the money. Does that go straight into a pizza? Do you throw yourself a celebration party? Do you finally get that new game that you want? Or do you say, this money is set aside to make my content better? Right? If you are an artist or if you're a musician, do you have a budget set aside that you're just throwing a little bit of money in there so that you can buy new strings, so you can get more art, you get more paint, so you can upgrade your gear, so you can get faster internet, so you can whatever? Do you have some kind of plan, even if it's a little bit, to make your content better, right? To pay for the silly hats, to pay for whatever you're doing. Do you have a budget? Because if you don't put money towards it, it's not going to get done. As much as I say, passion makes up for a lack of resources, if you don't budget for it, if you don't figure out a way to utilize the money you're getting for it in an effective way, it won't get done. Ukulele says, numbers aren't hard. You can't worship them, but you can't ignore them either. I agree. Sometimes they stress you out, so you ignore them. Like I currently don't have a viewer count on. I don't have a viewer count on at all. Anywhere, because it freaks me out. During stream, it freaks me out. But after stream, I check. I look at my little, when do people leave? When I start the game. When do people show up? During the discussion. I know that that's true. And so therefore, you have to look at it. But if you obsess over them, you're going to go crazy. Lizzie says, this is what I've been thinking about lately, about going into the streaming world, but I'm so out of focus. I met a group of people who I call friends here, but they're dealing with stress, anxiety, depression, so many things, illness and stuff, and I want to present the Lord to them, but again, me being out of focus makes me doubt my own capability to actually present God without being judged. Well, Lizzie, let me suggest that you listen to the VOD again, because it sounds like you've discovered a passion. You discover your heart is going towards someone. Your feelings are being pulled towards a group of people. And you can process the question, how can I serve them best using the gifts and talents I have? So Lizzie, what are you good at? Are you good at baking? Are you good at speaking? Are you good at sewing? Are you good at working out? Are you good at, what are you good at? Give me one or two things, because and regardless, even if your answer, it doesn't matter what your answer is. The answer is, if you want to help those people dealing with stress, anxiety, depression, and so many things, arts, crafts is my passion. Boom. Turn your art, give your art, make art for those people, right? Those people that are in your mind right now, that's your audience. They have a need that you have seen. It has created a passion in your heart that you're connecting your gifts to, and they are the ones who you are going to be bringing that to. So therefore, when you do your next art and craft, you think, I want these people that I love, that I know are going through a hard time. I want them to know the love of God, to feel the love of God, to understand his forgiveness, to understand his protection and power. And I want to do it in such a way that it's not coming down heavy, it's not coming down hard, so that they accept the gift. And I'm going to create this thing, and I'm going to create, I don't know how many people you know, but this thing, and I'm going to give it to them. Maybe it's something as simple as a coaster set that has pictures of things you know they love. Maybe it's a resin art that you know when they look at it's going to change it. Maybe it's light. And when they turn on the light, stuff happens. They can see the glory of creation. They're inspired because stars show up on the walls. Maybe it's splatter paint that you can kind of say, I understand your mess. We live in the mess, but I'm in it with you. right? Maybe there are ways that you can take this and you can turn them into message. Then that's your audience. Maybe it doesn't have to be big or streaming or online. Focus on them. Just pour your heart into those people. And I promise you what's going to happen is as you do that, your audience will grow. People will discover the love you're pouring into those people, and they're going to be like, can you teach me how to do that? Or can I have one? I feel like I'm bummed out too. Can you? And your audience will grow because you're focusing your gift and passion on a group of people. Okay? Let me consider that. What gets confronted gets done. That's a big one. Unless you're willing to get a little hot under the collar, get a little bit excited, get a little bit to give a little bit of pushback, to really get to be disciplined in it. Unless you're willing to confront things, it won't get done. So say someone comes onto your stream and is like, you know what? I really think you should stop playing that game. It's very boring. It's very stupid. If you're not willing to go, actually, that's part of my mission. Or someone walks in and they say, you know, like, you need to do this, or you need to do that, or you're horrible, you're stupid, you should quit. If you're not willing to confront that, then you're going to end up changing your mission. You're going to get mission drift, right? You're going to be like, well, maybe I should do this other thing. Maybe I should do this other thing. Maybe I should change my perspective. Maybe I need to change my audience. Maybe my gifting isn't right. I should go find a different gift. And you're going to end up being manipulated by the people around you and the people that are trying to push you into a different direction because you weren't willing to stand up for yourself and confront it. When someone comes in and they want to alter stuff, are you able to go, no, I'm not doing that? Here's a good example. So say you decided you're going to stream or create or draw or whatever, Tuesdays at 7:00. That's your time. You looked into it, man. Like you're like, that's my time. It's after school. I don't have to work. That's where I get my energy peak. I know what I can do. Tuesdays at 7:00 is when I'm going to do it. And someone comes in and says, you know, like you should be part of a small group. It starts at 2:00 or 7:00 on a Tuesday. Or someone comes in and says, you know, we're doing family time, or we're doing, you know, whatever time, or whatever. And they're trying to take over Tuesday at 7:00. If you are namby-pamby on that, and you kind of go, well, yeah, I mean, it's my creation, but this other stuff's important too, maybe you're going to end up suffering, and your content creation, the mission that you're trying to move forward, won't get done. You have to learn how to look at that person and go, no, Tuesday at 7:00 is sacred. God has called me to a mission. God has given me a purpose, a passion, and a gift. And Tuesdays at 7:00 is when I do that. As important as your thing is, and as wonderful as you are, you can't have Tuesdays at 7:00 until 10 or whatever. That's mine, and I'm willing to take your heat, and I'm willing to be called whatever, and I'm willing to get pushed on, and willing to get misunderstood because I know that that's important. And there are lots of other ways, but you're gonna have to confront some stuff if you want to move this thing forward. 4 or 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What gets rewarded, which gets done. Do you have a reward system built in for yourself so that when you reach certain numbers or reach certain echelons or reach certain whatevers, that you reward yourself or you reward your team or you reward your group or you reward whatever? Do you have that? For me, if I'll show you something. This is my Patreon. If you go down here, if you go down here, I have and this is just Patreon, for example. Can I make it bigger? Yep. Boop. Cool. I have, these are my goals. So my first goal to start was to get a Stream Deck, right? When I hit $500, I got a Stream Deck. So I got a Stream Deck for me, for the channel. Next, when I got to $1,000 reached, because again, this is my full-time job and I need support doing it. So therefore, I have big goals. Like this isn't even close to how much I need in order to pay my bills. When I got to 1,000, we're kicking off a Minecraft server. That's already in action. Is already ready to go because I already met the goal. I've got people that are helping me out. Quizzes help me out. Double Pixels help me out. I got people that have been testing it, and so we're launching the Planet Taco Minecraft server, and I'm paying for it. Okay? I mean, you're paying for it because you're my patrons, but you know what I mean. So that's my next goal. The next goal that I have is at $3,000 or $4,132 Canadian. I'm going to be trying to get I'm going to get a new camera. I want it to improve the stream. I want it to be something that is exciting for you guys. I want you guys to see something new, and I don't have to use my Logitech C920 anymore. That's my goal. Do you have a goal? Do you have a reward? It doesn't have to be big stuff like that. Maybe you're not full-time content creator guy, whatever. Maybe you're smaller. Maybe it's when you reach 100, you're going to do a marathon stream. When you reach 50 subscribers, you're going to put out your very first merch. When you reach 1,000 followers, you're going to go and meet some of them at the mall. You're like, once I get to 1,000 and I've got, consistent viewers, we're going to go somewhere. We're going to go to a mall, and I'm just going to say, like, I'm here and come visit me. I'm going to go meet 3 or 4 people IRL. You have to have a system to reward yourself and reward the people that you're caring for and the ones that are helping you as well. If you want it done, there has to be a reward. We know that for weight loss and exercise and marriage and friendship, like just everything works that way. Do you have a reward? So, do you have people, this is the question, so this is like the application question. Do you have people that you've persuaded already? Who are they? What's their demographic? And what's your next step to influencing them? Where do you influence them? How do you influence them? What's this group? That's the question I want you to ask yourself. Why is it intimidating to share the news of the gospel? Usually, if I had to, I don't know if it's a rhetorical question, but my answer to that question is usually because of a lack of confidence in your own knowledge of it, or fear of man. The Bible calls fear of man, as in you're worried that the person is going to ask questions you don't know the answer to, be mean to you, be angry at you for saying that, be judgmental, that it's going to get out and other people are going to cancel you, that your fear of consequences, because the gospel by its nature is offensive, is going to cause you problems. And therefore, stepping out and sharing, opening up your heart and giving the gospel is risky and dangerous. That's usually why people have a hard time with that. But let me tell you the secret in order to get rid of that intimidation factor. And what it is tell your story. Don't present the 4, pillars of whatever. Don't present the some acronym somewhere. Don't give them the Romans Road. Don't, the 4 spiritual laws. No, don't, no. What you do is you tell your story. Just be like, when I was growing up, I wasn't a Christian, or I was a Christian, and I got into this kind of trouble, and then I got really afraid, or I got, I felt guilty, I felt shameful, I felt whatever your thing is. I went through a hard time, or I had a great time. I don't know what your story is. And you tell your story from the perspective of what it means to meet Jesus, like life before Jesus, how you met Jesus, and life after Jesus. Tell that story. What was life before Jesus? How did you meet Jesus? And what was life after Jesus? Nobody can argue with that. One of the beauties of being postmodern or post-postmodern at this point is that your story is yours and nobody can argue with it. Your truth is your truth. So you can't get anybody to fight with that. They'll just go, yeah, that's cool for you. That's the best you're going to get, or the worst you're going to get. In the same way, you can't argue with it because you know all the details. Right? Like, well, that's not true. No, it is true, because I really did pray that, and I really was there, and I really did feel his presence. So that's true. They're going to well, that's dumb. Well, I don't know what to tell you, man. I know I met Jesus that day, right? So tell your story from your perspective. Don't worry so much about the 4 spiritual laws, the theology of it, and all the rest of that. As you grow and as you develop and as you learn stuff, yeah, you can maybe get into more apologetics work, but it all starts with you and your story, talking about life before Jesus, how you met Jesus, and life after Jesus. Okay? And Ukulele's point of, it's like if someone asks you a question and like, I don't know the answer. Just be okay. I don't know what the answer is. But I can help you find out. I know this guy, or I know this pastor, I know this book. Let's go look together. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, last thing. This is the last bit. They pursue a purpose. An effective content creator, an effective influencer, someone who changes the world with what they do, pursues a purpose. The final observation is that every judge could lead or influence because they followed a distinct purpose laid out before them. They moved in a direction to reach a specific goal. No judge desired to maintain the status quo. They each felt they had a divine assignment to be performed. You might call it their life purpose. It became a consuming accountability partner. It'd be difficult to separate leadership from purpose. And I would say this, it'd be difficult to separate influence, content creation, Christian content creation, influential, good Christian content creation from having a life purpose, from knowing God and being called by Him, from a call. You can't separate those. Like, I'm going to do Christian content creation, but I have no reason to do so. Or I want to do Christian content creation, but I have no message to speak, and I don't know why I'm doing this. Like, it doesn't make sense. Those things go together. I cannot imagine leading without a clear sense of God-given purpose. I can't imagine turning on stream. For me, personally, I cannot imagine turning on stream without a clear God-given purpose for why I'm doing so. It's too hard. It takes too much work, too much energy, too much effort. There is so much failure and so much concern and so much worry, so much uncertainty. There's so many spiritual attacks and difficulty, and there's not enough money and there's not enough resources, and I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I can't imagine consistently trying to bring content creation without thinking and believing it was my life's purpose right now to do so, right? That this is where God wants me to be. There are times where the only reason I turn on stream is because I believe God called me to be here and this is my job. Show up. And then I just do. And then God does the rest from that point on. Perhaps this is why so many churches fail to bear fruit, or why so many channels fail to bear fruit, so many ministries fail to bear fruit. It's because they have no clear, defined, agreed upon mission, no reason for doing it. They just want to be there. How many? And Blocker, you get this one. I've sat in meetings with people who want to start a streaming ministry, but they have no idea why. They're like, the kids are online. I like kids. I also will be online. There's no defined mission, no defined audience, no defined purpose. They just show up and go online. They don't seek excellence. They don't budget for it. They don't prepare for it. They don't have a message for it. They just show up and they're like, well, we have a streaming ministry. Thumbs up. Everybody, see how awesome we are. And it drives me insane because they're bad at it and they don't care to get better. But they're calling themselves a streaming ministry. But they have no reason, no clear, defined, agreed upon mission for why they're there. Right? I don't know. That's just my thing. Maybe not you. Constantly, you don't feel like I don't know what I'm doing these days. I think there's a place for that, Blocker. Just get real for me to get real for a bit. I think there's a reason that God keeps us on the cusp of having a clue, or on the cusp of feeling like we're getting it. I call it chasing the kite string. Have you ever flown a kite? And all of a sudden you drop it, and the end of it's like unreeling, but you got this like curve of string that's kind of going, and so you're running as fast as you can to try to get the kite string, and you're like, you could almost grab it just to get control of the kite. You feel like ministry, or like your life, or like your budget, anything is really like that. You're like, if I could just a little bit, one more, and I could totally get control of this thing. I think God keeps us in that sometimes because it makes us more dependent on Him, right? The direction, like the kite string is going that way, and you know that you need effort, and you're putting in your effort, and you're trying to do it, but you know that without divine intervention, the wind of the Spirit doing something different, you will never be able to achieve it, so it keeps you dependent. I don't know. That's my thought. Lizzie says, exactly, I'm guilty of doing that, doubting if I have purpose to even begin streaming. And all the things you just mentioned, the equipment. Yeah, I mean, That was what we're doing here. And that's part of why I have the class, is to help people understand their purpose, how to understand their audience, how to understand themselves, how to connect with God, how to build their schedule. And maybe the clarifying thing is, you know what? I don't think God's calling me to stream. I think God's calling me to create something else in a different way. Or I am called to stream, and all those excuses that I've been making, they're actually not that good of excuses. I'll just start. Sometimes. Y'all, I know a music streamer who made partner streaming from her phone. Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. Blocker, I'm being faced with potential reality that I will need to lead the new gaming ministry at Campus Crusades, but I'm going to, like, I know how to lead in theory, but not practically. Dude, I'm doing the same thing. Blocker, I'm the same thing. Like, I essentially planted a church, right? We wrote a 25-page mission statement with, a board stuff. Like, Ukulele and I planted an online church with all the bells and whistles and all the technological stuff. And we're working through incredible, like, details, like how do we do international donation stuff, and how do we stay legal and not go to jail? How do we, and for me, how do I teach? How do I reach content creators? Should I even be playing games? When I play games, and I suck at them, is that okay? How do I make the content good? And how do I reach the audience that I want to reach? How do I communicate with them? Not be too serious, but be serious. Not be too, and what happens when only 5 people show up and you're like, I don't know. I always feel like sometimes I'm just making stuff up, like I'm going through this content here. And sometimes I feel like I'm speaking and I'm saying, and I think it's the right thing to say, but at the same time, I'm like, but I'm so new, and I've only been doing this for like a year and a half as far as content creation goes, or more than a year, a little bit more than a year and a half. Like, who am I to say any of this stuff? And I still feel like I'm barely holding on. I think it's okay. I think it's okay. The question is, I think maybe if you felt overly qualified and you definitely knew what you were doing, you'd probably be less effective. You want to step into a ministry like that and be absolutely dependent, with open ears, a humble heart, willing to learn, willing to change, willing to train. Because if you thought you knew it all, then you'd end up doing a worse job. From a work perspective, there are team leaders who apply for the jobs for the wrong reason. They want more money and the role to brag about, but they are not team players, and they do not realize the role of a leader is to serve others, an organization that they work in, not themselves. Yep. People that are promoted out of their usefulness. Okay, last thing. Let's finish this off. In Judges, their purpose was, when you have a purpose, you parade a purpose. How do you know your purpose, or how do you communicate your purpose? How do you understand your purpose? It's personal, as in it fits your gifts and passions, meaning that it's not, you're not taking on someone else's purpose. You're not taking on someone else. You're not like, someone told me I'm supposed to go be this, or someone told me I should start doing this, or someone told me I should be interested in this. Instead, it comes from you. Right? It comes out of your heart. If you're trying to do something, have a purpose that isn't yours, that you do not care about and does not fit your gifts or passions, you're not going to do it very well. It needs to come out of you. 2, it's measurable. It involves activity that can be evaluated. So your purpose, it needs to be something that when you look at, you can actually say, you know what? I know I'm being effective because there are numbers to count. Right? I'm going to plant a church. How do you know if you're effective in planting the church? Because people are showing up. I'm going to teach a class. How do I know I'm being effective? People show up to the class. I'm going to stream. How do I know I'm being effective? People show up to the stream. I'm going to create content and put it out on Twitter. How do I know that I'm doing that effectively? Because people are following my Twitter account, right? It's measurable. If it's like, I'm putting out things and I don't care about numbers and I don't care what happens, then it ends up, that isn't a purpose, right? I want to change the world. How do you count that? How do you figure out whether or not you're doing it or not? Right? You need to have a purpose that is measurable. Memorable is specific enough to be remembered and embraced. Right? In other words, you can communicate it. We talk about in the class, we talk about an elevator speech, which essentially is you can take your content, and for streaming, you can communicate why you're there in very short order. in like 2 sentences. Welcome to the Christian Ninja channel, where we're building an open, encouraging, and meaningful online family through gaming, real talk, and God's truth. And part of building that community is mentoring content creators through the Taco Network. Right? I can tell it to you easily. Do you have a memorable elevator speech so you can understand why you're doing what you're doing? Meaningful. It's surrounded national issues that made a difference. In other words, you think that what you're doing or what you're putting out there has meaning. It's something you care about. It's personal. It's measurable. It's something you can actually look at and number. It's memorable because it's something very easy to communicate. And it's meaningful as in you know that when you do it, you're going to make a difference. Someone's life is going to be changed. The world is going to be changed. Some part of the world is going to be changed. Mobile. It could travel with you wherever you find yourself. So if your mission is to say, let's go with, helping those people that you were talking about earlier about who were depressed and anxious and whatever, you can do that in a lot of different ways. Say you're like, I want to help people with anxiety. Okay, I'm going to do it through streaming. And then you stop streaming. Well, I still want to help people with anxiety, so I'm going to do it through a podcast. Well, I didn't do the podcast anymore. I still want to help people with anxiety. I'm going to do it through a YouTube class. Well, I still want to help people with anxiety. I'm going to do it through a local class where I can actually see people. Well, I still want people with anxiety. I'm going to do it with a book that I'm going to write a book. The meaning, the purpose of your life is consistent. What you want to do and what you feel called towards is consistent, but the way that you do it is mobile. So in other words, you're not just a streamer. Your purpose is greater than that. You use streaming to help your purpose. But if streaming ended, if Twitch blew up and the internet stopped, you could take that purpose that you have in your heart and you could actually move it to something else. It could be completely different, but you'd be serving people anyway. And the last one is moral. It's right. They felt it could be done, but it should be done. So for you, when you look at your purpose and clarifying your purpose and why you do what you do, you know that it's right. I believe that it is immoral for a church, for a pastor, for a ministry to look at someone like you who is passionate about content creation, in the digital sphere, in missions, and not train them, not affirm them, not look into it, and to minimize and belittle it. I think that is wrong. I think it's sinful. I think that's closed-minded and foolish. I think the Apostle Paul would have a few things to say about that, as would the Apostle Peter, as would missionaries throughout the years. They would all have something to say to that person about entering into the new sphere of culture to be able to communicate the gospel to new people. They would be upset. So therefore, because I believe that it's morally right, I feel it should be done. What I'm doing isn't just important, it needs to be done. Because there is immorality that I'm fighting against. Okay? It's funny because I had those ideas but never took action on them because of doubts and fear of not knowing what I'm doing. Well, Lizzie, I feel the same way, and I felt the same way for a long time. But I really like learning. One of my things I love doing is learning. And so I feel compelled all the time to just learn more. I made a commitment to myself that every day, and I kept it for probably about 18 months, that every single day I do something to teach myself about streaming and content creation or improve my stream. And I did. And it was self-motivating because I felt it was important. But I always felt like I was, scared. I'm still scared. I'm still nervous about streams. I'm still nervous about what if everybody just leaves? What if nobody ever shows up to stream? What if I keep talking and all of a sudden somebody says something that hurts me and I fall apart? What if, the names of people that I care about online, what if they just forget me one day because they just decide not to come anymore? That could happen. It scares me. What if I say something really terrible and embarrass myself and embarrass the gospel and embarrass the people that that are supporting me? What if I don't make enough money to support myself and I end up having to quit streaming and quit content creation? Taco falls apart. The ministry falls apart. And I have to go work at Walmart because I no longer have connection to the church and I no longer have you know, I can't get a job in ministry, and now I'm, you know, like it's terrifying sometimes. Terrifying. But as Ukulele said, none of us knew what we were doing when we started. It is, and to just Pineapple's point, that idea of you know, like if you're on point and you're following Jesus, he promises that he'll give you what you need. That's why I'm teaching you guys how to find your purpose. Because if you're like, yes, this is what I'm here for, and you obey God, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will come after. And all those other things are your resourcing. All right, last thing. Do you follow your purpose? We're going to do one quick thing about self-evaluation. And anybody who's still here, I don't know how many people are here, but whoever's still here, evaluate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. Number 1, do you perceive a need? On a scale of 1 to 10, do you have a feeling inside of something you know that you need? Number 1 is like, no, I think the world is perfect and there's absolutely no needs, and I have, you know, why would anybody want to change it? Number 10 is I know exactly what I'm here for, and I know exactly what need I want to fill. Do you possess a gift? Number 1 is, no, I am talentless. I am useless. I am a slug. I don't know anything about myself, and nor can I help anybody do anything. Number 10 is, I know exactly what my gift is, and I've been working in it for a while, and boy, yep, I know exactly what I'm good at. Number 3, pray to passion. Do you have a passion in your heart? Like if you scroll up, like to Parade of Passion, right? Do you have a burden? Do you have conviction? Do you have that thing in your heart that actually motivates and drives you to action? Number 1 is, no, I don't care about anything. I don't care about anyone. I care about nothing. The world has no, you know. Number 10 is, yes, I am on fire, absolute fire for something. When I wake up in the morning, it's the first thing I think about. It keeps me up at night. It's the only thing I read about. It's the only thing I look into. I am on fire. This is my passion. Number 4, they persuade a people. Do you have anybody following you? Is anybody on board with you? Number 1 is, I'm the only person that's interested in this. I don't know a single other person in the entire world who cares about this, and I have no help, and I have nobody. I'm just me. Number 10 is, yes, I have some followers. Yes, I have some co-workers. I have some fellow people that are involved in this thing, and we're on board together. We are so excited to be working together. Number 5, they pursue a purpose. Do you, and we'll go back up to the purpose thing, do you have a personal, measurable, memorable, meaningful, mobile, moral purpose that you can communicate, right? Do you have something in your life? Number 1 being, I shouldn't exist. If I died today, nothing in the world would change. Nobody would care. Nobody would be affected. Nobody would cry. Nobody would lack anything. I contribute nothing to the planet. Number 10 is, yes, I know exactly what I'm doing, and I know why I'm here. And if I stopped doing it, people would get hurt. People would be lesser for it. And there's a lot of people who depend on me because I'm doing this thing. It's important that I do it. That's number 10. So judging from this, where are you at? Scale of 1 to 10. Evaluate yourself. And then why don't we talk later about how we can bump those numbers up. Alternatively, you can maybe join the class next time it comes around and we can do the whole thing. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time to spend a little bit of time with me on this, because it's such it's so important. It's stuff that I really, really care about. But that's the end of the presentation. I've done this course before. I'm still getting some out of it. Good. Yeah. I mean, I really like talking about this. I do the same. I'm teaching it and I'm getting stuff out of it. So, yeah, I hope it was valuable to you. If it was, great. If not, don't tell me because I'll cry. Can I save it? I'm going to save it. Let's just save it. Right? Right? Yes. Cool. I saved it. Did he go this way or did he go the other way? Oh, he went that way. I found him. No!